We celebrate our holidays across the entire country. And if you look on a political map, you will see the borders of our country. However, this beautiful song tells us that the real borders of all our countries are the ones around our heart.
We are a people of memory. As inheritors of our ancestors' legacy, we hold their stories tenderly.
Gleaning wisdom from diverse journeys, united in hope for the future, guide us to trust and love as we kindle this flame together.
Thank you to Olivia and Lily and Emery. And good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. I'm Deb Weiner. I'm the Interim Director of Religious Education here at First Parish in Bedford, and I want to wish you the joy of this holiday season, even though the weather outside is truly frightful. Whatever is going on in your lives right now, whether you have started that cooking process or are avoiding it for as long as possible, whether you have big plans for the coming holiday or none at all, we welcome you here, and we are very glad that you have joined us today. Following the service, join us in Community Hour in the common room. That is the big room that is across the hall in back of me. And make sure that if you are new, you stop by at the welcome table on your way if you would like to find out more about us and tell us more about you as well. You can also fill out a blue connection card during the service if you'd like to stay in touch with the goings-on around here. I hope that you will find them in the pew racks in front of where you are sitting. Now, it being the holidays, following the service today, in celebration of this season and our traditions, which we are honoring today, you'll be able to sample some of the family favorites that we'll be talking about during our worship service, along with any other treats that you may have brought with you to share. In the back of your order of service, I want to call your attention to the announcements and the calendar section. Particularly today at this all-ages worship service, I want to remind you that for little ones, our nursery is open. Samantha Plumley and friends are down there on our lower level. So if that sounds like something that someone with you would enjoy, feel free to go visit Sam in the nursery. Next Sunday, Annie will be preaching as we welcome the season of waiting that precedes Christmas, that is Advent. And we will also have religious education classes next Sunday, and of course, nursery care as well. Now, tomorrow, there will be an interfaith Thanksgiving service at Temple Shalom Emeth in Burlington at 7 p.m. As you may know, we participate in both Bedford and Burlington clergy groups, and Annie Gonzalez-Milliken will be participating in this celebration of Thanksgiving. Our choir is encouraged to also participate, and all of us are invited as well. That happens at 7 p.m., again, Temple Shalom Emeth in Burlington. And coming event preview, on Saturday, December 7th, don't forget about the Bedford tree lighting ceremony. Our doors will be open starting at 4 p.m. And rumor has it that there will be hot cocoa for anyone who stops by, and maybe some bell ringing when the lights go on the common as well. So don't miss the Bedford tree lighting, and that is on December 7th. Once more, a warm welcome to everyone who's here. We're so glad that you've joined us today. And now we'll continue with our worship service, and I want to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 67 in your gray book. We sing now together. Hymn number 67.
We sing speaking of standing and covenant, will you please join in our unison affirmation printed in your order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. You may be seated. This reading is by Vera Nazarian. It's from the Perpetual Calendar of Inspiration. The gingerbread house has 4 walls, a roof, a door, a window, a chimney. It is decorated with many sweet culinary delights on the outside. But on the inside, there is nothing, only the bare gingerbread walls. It is not a real house, not until you decide to add a gingerbread room. That's when the stories move in. They will stay in residence for as long as you abstain from taking the first gingerbread bite.
The theme of today's worship service is traditions. There are many traditions that shape Thanksgiving in this country, and I will tell you that there is a book that I have not yet written, but still would love to do, and that is a book called Out of the Melting Pot about the Thanksgiving traditions, and particularly culinary traditions that we share in this country. Because I realized as I talked to more and more people about this holiday that there is this great variety that reflects the cultural diversity that makes this country what it is. Today, we're going to explore a few of those traditions with short reflections from a number of members of this community. And we're going to start with our music director, Brad Connor.
Do you like my Miss Gulch pie basket? Toto's not in here. I'm so happy to be the first one who gets to talk about family traditions for Thanksgiving. Frankly, I don't have any. I grew up in West Virginia, a lot of you know that, but what a lot of you probably do not know is that I left to go to college at age 17. One Thanksgiving during my college years, I was in Salzburg, Austria, and they do not celebrate Thanksgiving there. And what I did on Thanksgiving was I went to the Christmas market in town. It was absolutely beautiful. Since then, there are at least 2 Thanksgivings I spent all by myself. Others I spent with friends, sometimes with the families of friends, and perhaps most regularly, but not this year, with my partner Ben's family. Maybe my tradition is to share in the traditions of others. Still, I can recall 3 specific Thanksgivings, maybe for, if anything, interesting reasons. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I remember one Thanksgiving when my dad's mom came to our house for dinner. You have to understand that Mamaw and my mother did not get along. I remember that the best part of that dinner was when Mamaw sat down at the table, looked at her plate of food, and said in a very whiny voice, "Oh, this turkey looks so dry." There was silence at the table, followed by my mother responding, "Well, perhaps you can cook your own next year." More silence, and I don't remember what happened after that, except me and my sisters going off and laughing a lot. When I was 10 years old, there was another Thanksgiving my family went to my mother's parents, Grandma and Grandpa. I loved going there. They lived in a traditional farmhouse that was attached to a new house. Essentially, the dinner was cooked in the old, scruffy kitchen of the old house and was moved to the fancy eating kitchen in the new house, literally one room away, where it was put in proper serving dishes and then served in the new living room. It was understood that the new kitchen was only there for show and not to cook food. Very Beverly Hillbillies. One more short story. When I moved to Massachusetts, I remember talking to my mother about what I was going to bring to a specific dinner with Ben's family. You have to understand that Southern meals on Thanksgiving tend to be meat, gravy, and starch. I told her I was taking broccoli to the dinner, and her immediate response in her accent was, "Well, honey, that's green. You need to take something they can eat, some other vegetable, like potatoes." And you know something? Whatever I choose to contribute to anyone's Thanksgiving dinner, I make sure that I always bring my famous mashed potatoes. These potatoes are for you, Mother. And a little green broccoli on the side.
Thank you so much, Brad. And now for our next sharing of tradition, I'm very pleased to welcome Julia and Oscar Muehlhofer.
Our family Thanksgiving tradition is to go to our friend's house in Arlington, where we eat really good food and play outside at an amazing park with a fabulous playground. The playground has 2 really long slides down a steep, big hill, and you never get too old for those slides. My dad even goes on them now. Our friends are Chad, who is my dad's college roommate. His wife, Kate, is an amazing cook. They have 2 teenage daughters. Their grandparents are there for Thanksgiving as well. Their grandmother is a storyteller, and their grandfather likes to read to the littlest kids. Our tradition is a result of our own family's shortcomings and misfunctions. Unlike Kate, my mom is a terrible cook. She says I can say that in public, and her skills lie somewhere elsewhere. Like neutering dogs and doing surgery on guinea pigs.
My mom's a way back cook.
My mom is also a vegetarian. She's also impatient and easily distracted in the kitchen. She has no real interest in feeding humans. If she could burn cereal. And last time, nobody really wanted to eat her tofurkey that she cooked, just in case it was contaminated or something. Our friends in Arlington make amazing turkey, not tofurkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and 12 different kinds of squashes. My mom is asked to bring a raw vegetable platter and a fruit plate because she can't mess those things up. Sadly, our blood relatives almost never come for Thanksgiving. My dad's dad really hates cold weather and will only come to visit us in the summer. He lives in Oregon.
My grandpa is allergic to snow.
My mom's parents have an old 3-legged dachshund that bit my brother last Christmas. They live in Florida. Fritzy is very spoiled, and he does not like to fly, so they don't come to Thanksgiving. My uncles chose to have Friendsgiving with their friends in Colorado and New York. One time, Uncle Todd came when I was little, but I was in the emergency room with hand, foot, and mouth disease, which freaked his ex-wife out. One time, Uncle Harold came with his wife from New York, but the traffic was so bad driving back, they did not want to come again. It would be hard for the 5 of us, plus 13 plets, to drive there. So we have Thanksgiving with our chosen family, which are our friends. Even our dog Zeus is invited, and he plays with their dog Avery. And lucky for us, the food is as great as the company.
I hasten to add that Astrid knew they were going to say all of that. So Astrid, you're a total good sport. And thank you, Julia and Oscar, very much. So let's continue with our worship now, and I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 68, right next to the one that you sang before. This is Come Ye Thankful People Come, number 68.
Our next song is in your bulletin. So don't look in any hymn book. It's in your bulletin. We did it a couple of weeks ago. It's called There Is a Love. Steve's going to play it through once, and we're going to sing it through 3 times. And I'm going to ask Annie to come up and help me lead it. Let's stand in body or spirit.
Traditions. Those of you who have been around here for a bit may know that I am, by Jewish law, 100% Jewish, and by life, 100% Unitarian Universalist. Both of those things live in me together. One of the beloved parts of my family's tradition is spending that time, or was, I should say, spending that time with my family from my father's side of the family. We would typically go to Newburgh, New York, where my aunt and uncle, Irv and Estelle Weiner, lived, along with their daughter, Ellen, and my aunts and uncles, Frida and Arnold Rosenberg, Morris and Sylvia Weiner, and others would gather. And with these children of Russian immigrants, we would celebrate all that we had been given. One of the things you may know is that many Jews do not celebrate Christmas. And it did not take long for our celebrations to become known as Jewish Christmas. There were other things that made it a unique experience. One was the chopped liver and matzah appetizer that we had. I have brought to the table my Aunt Estelle's recipe for chopped liver, which I do think is the best. Even though I really don't like liver, I love this stuff. And I am going to put it on our table, and you'll be able to taste it too if you're brave or if you love chopped liver. One of the other things that happened was that the turkey was stuffed with a matzah stuffing. We really loved it. It was fabulous. And in fact, I make it to this day. And of course, there were some presents as well. I also remember that my uncles and my dad would sit in the television room smoking the worst smelling cigars ever, watching all those football games. And my Aunt Estelle, who did like a cocktail, enjoyed something called a bull shot, which was bouillon and vodka, as I recalled, and sat there with her perfectly manicured fingernails and her cigarettes dripping ashes, enjoying her cocktails. At some point during the late afternoon, it was sometimes the case that she'd had just a few too many of those cocktails. And my cousin and I would finish making the dinner and get it on the table for everybody to enjoy. So those were some of my beloved Thanksgiving traditions, and I'm glad to share them with you today.
As we bring forth our offerings of memories and traditions, of food, of joys, and of concerns, we also have a moment to bring forth our financial gifts to share with this community where we share so much. And we do this mindful of the gathered community and of those who will be coming someday to this gathered community, as well as mindful of those who came before us. Thanksgiving is a complicated holiday in so many ways, and the story around it is complicated. The story of this land we are on and its abundance and beauty and the ways that we have exploited it is complicated. As we join in this next song and listening to kids sing for us and joining in, I invite you to think about the words, "This land was made for you and me," and think about your history and your people. How did they come here? And think about the people who we want to be on this land with us, those who struggle to be on this land, those who are told they should not be, those who our government wants to send away. We hold all of this complexity with us on this holiday celebration and all of the time. May we make this truly a land for all people who want to be here and one we treat with respect.
Thank you so much to Kids Sing. That was awesome. And now, continuing with our traditions, she does everything, and she has family recollections as well. We're so pleased to welcome our Children and Youth Music Director, Janet Welby.
Right here. First of all, I want to say, Astrid, where are you? I'm from a long line of Italian women who hate to cook. Me, my mother, my grandmother, they're from Italy. They hate to cook. So there you go, the stereotype gone. Also, Dorothy, where are you? Dorothy. No, Dorothy, Africa. Dorothy, Africa. You are wicked interesting. Vanilla is great. Yes. So there's only one reason to celebrate Thanksgiving: stuffing. When I was a kid, my mother made stuffing with those forbidden things like white bread and margarine, that magic powdery stuff called Bell's stuffing stuff, whatever it is. Throw in some onions and you've got stuffing. And really, the only way to eat stuffing is to sneak it while the bird is resting. You go and you go past that crusty stuff and into that deliciousness, and you make sure no one's watching, and you sneak some, right? Yeah, and then you come back later, and you sneak some more. And it just wasn't good unless I was sneaking it. Of course, by dinner, I was full. But I did it every year. And over the years, in my first marriage, sorry, darling, you're my second. You're my good one. But anyway, in my first marriage, my mother-in-law used to come over and make stuffing with me, and I would eat it raw while we're making it. And she got annoyed because the bird didn't have enough room. I mean, there was too much room and not enough stuffing. So she would take 2 pieces of bread, put some stuffing in between. She said, "Eat this." Okay. And then over time, I wanted to try different things, put different things in that bird. I wanted to put chestnuts or rice or apples or oysters, and my mother-in-law would be horrified. So she would show up with another stuffing every year in addition to mine, and I would get really upset, which now I think is really stupid. Why would I get upset? Somebody brings more food, you know? But anyway, I think there's this attitude about stuffing. So my mom, she's alone right now taking care of my brother who has severe autism. And so I'm going to go travel out there to be with her for Thanksgiving. And she said, "Great, I'm going to make reservations at a really nice restaurant." However, I am going to buy a chicken and make stuffing because your brother, he has to have his Thanksgiving stuffing. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And now I'm very pleased to welcome members of the Okamoto family who will come up here and share something about their traditions.
We thank you because it's the 8th year here in the United States for us, and it's the 7th time that we are celebrating Thanksgiving with you guys. I'm the speaker because I didn't make this. So all the 8th years been good, except for the first year when my wife didn't know that on the Thanksgiving day the stores are closed, so we couldn't buy much. But otherwise, it's been great. In the Japanese community, we usually don't have our relatives here in the United States, so we have a smaller family, but we end up, gathering together with the rest of the Japanese. And that's how we usually celebrate our Thanksgiving. And it would become like a potluck, style. So our usual task is to make our veggies because our kids, for some reason, loves greens. Not the potatoes, but the greens. And my boss usually tells me, or tells the team when we have a dinner party at the company, he would say that he's surprised with how much our kids eat the veggies, not the meats. So that's how much they love it. But so here's the green beans veggie dish that we make for a large portion of people. And the kids helped. I guess they don't want to speak. I was hoping they would speak. But so the ingredients, as far as I know, is I see some roasted sesame seeds and definitely soy sauce. I heard there's some sugar in it, and the secret ingredients always is the fish broth. And so that's our dish, and thank you very much.
Much. That's just great, and it sounds and looks delicious. And don't forget, you're going to get to taste it afterward. Well, it's time to sing again. So I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 349 in your gray book. We gather together, hymn number 349.
So we have an inside joke on my mom's side of the family, and it's a phrase we use when somebody is being very particular about tradition. The phrase is, "But I want the GD cherries," but without the GD, the full phrase, but trying to keep it PG here with the kids. The phrase comes from my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, my mom's dad, who proclaimed this one day when it was getting very close to Christmas, and my grandmother was making her usual Christmas cookies that she always made, and one of the kinds that she always made were the spritz cookies that you have to press out with the cookie press. Some of you are nodding, yes. And they were almond flavored, and they were like a little circle type shape, and in the middle you put one of those candied cherries that you get in the jars from the store. But my grandfather, who had done all the shopping for all the baking that my grandmother was going to do, had neglected to buy the cherries. When this was noticed, my grandmother, who always wanted to, keep things easy and please everyone and not cause any trouble at all, said, "Oh, it's okay, Ray, we don't need the cherries." And then, of course, he proclaimed, "I want the GD cherries," and he went back to the store. And sometimes traditions are like that, right? You just want the stuffing that you want. You want the GD cherries. You want it to be the same because it's really comforting. And sometimes traditions are also like that. They're stressful and they cause conflict and everyone feels not very celebratory, but more like it's all a big obligation. And I think we are all trying to find our way in the mix of that, trying to honor the comfort and connection that traditions bring, while trying to lean in the direction of flexibility and relationship away from the rigidity that brings the stress. When I was growing up, we spent Thanksgiving always with my mom's parents in central Illinois. And the dynamic I observed there was that my grandma made all this delicious, beautiful homemade food and homemade pies with these wonderful pie crusts. But it took a lot of work and a lot of effort. And this was her kind of main offering to the family. And a story I internalized about that was that there was one kind of woman you could be, a domestic kind, and there was another kind of woman you could be, a more intellectual, career-oriented person, and that they were different and they were separate. I was not a domestic kind, I told myself. But I did like to bake. And last year for Christmas, my mom, having noticed that I was getting more interested in baking, gave me a pie tin, a special pie tin, and a cookbook, a pie cookbook for Christmas. And I decided I was going to get into pie baking. I decided I needed a craft and a hobby, and I was going to get into that. And over the past year, I have made probably 2/3 of the pies in this pie cookbook. It's the Sister Pie Cookbook, if anyone's interested. I would highly recommend it. And I've been getting better and better at this craft, and it's been a lot of fun. And it's been a way for me to relax and dive into a creative process. It's a really important complement to a lot of the busyness in my life, the running around and the tasks and the phone and the email, to be doing something in the kitchen. Not an either or, not something that takes away from, but a complement to. And I feel really grateful for that gift my mom gave me to reclaim a piece of my family heritage that I had pushed away from me. And I feel grateful that I have found that place between the GD cherry rigidity and giving it all away. But I will admit that today, I did not bake you a pie. I went to Whole Foods. And I bought a gluten-free apple pie. Because sometimes you don't have time for the traditions. I will be making real pies for real Thanksgiving. And that's how it is. And sometimes it's just enough to bring exactly what we brought and to know that there are other times when we can delve in deep to the traditions.
For the closing hymn, you'll need the teal hymnal. Let's make sure everyone has one. If you can't get to one, raise your hand and one of the ushers will bring it to you. And turn to page 1010, like Rin 1010. And I know it says that Ben Sears is here to help me lead it. Well, he's here in spirit. He's probably at home in bed, but that's different. Steve's going to play this through once, and then we're all going to sing it together twice, and then we're going to sing it together twice more, so 4 times in all. Except those last 2 times, we're going to do it as a call and response. So this side will be call, and this side will be response. Please stand in body or spirit.
friends, I invite you to join hands or rub elbows if you prefer for this closing blessing, keeping in mind the gatherings that will be around our table, sometimes salty and sometimes sweet. Friends, life is short, and we have little time to gladden the hearts of those who travel with us. So I pray you, be swift to love and hasten to be kind. Go in peace and love. Amen. Please be seated for the postlude.